Hello everybody, it's Nick here with Nick Tolman Music, and today we are going to continue our beginner guitar lesson series using Hal Leonard's Guitar Method, Book 1. Let's get started. Welcome back everybody. Today we're going to go ahead and be looking at page 11 here in the Hal Leonard Guitar Method Book 1. As usual, if you haven't checked out my Patreon page, please do so. I'm really happy to bring these guitar lessons to you for free here on YouTube, and Patreon is a great way for you to support and say thank you to Nick Tolman Music for providing these lessons for you, but also to help us be able to continue to bring this content to you. So again, check out my Patreon page and consider becoming a patron today. All right, so on page 11, we're going to learn two new notes. So we're going to learn the notes G and A. And both of these notes are going to be found on the third string. Okay, so just as a reminder, on the first string so far, we have learned the notes E, F, and G. E with the open E on the first string, F with our first finger on the first fret of the first string, and G with the third finger on the third fret of the first string. Okay, we've also learned B, C, and D. B, C, and D. Open, first finger, third finger, all on the second string. Okay? And today we're going to learn two new notes, G and A. Again, these are both found on the third string, so we're going another string down. And we have open, G, and we have A on the second fret with our second finger. Okay, so this is the first time in the book that we are going to use our second finger. And that shouldn't pose any problems. Generally the second finger doesn't cause anybody any problems, but just be aware that that's the first time that we've used the second finger. Okay, so if you look at the top of the page, it's explaining those two notes and it shows us everything that we need to know about them. So for G, again, it's showing on the diagram that it is the open third string, all right? If you look at the staff, G is found on the second line. The second line up from the bottom, that is G. So whenever you see a note there, it'll always be G. All right? And again, it is open. No problems there. All right, so then we look at A. Again, the diagram is showing us it's got the big number 2. The actual number 2 means we're using our second finger. And that number 2 is sitting on the second fret. So it's meaning second finger, second fret of that third string over. Okay? Third string over from the right. Third string from our top. High E string. Third string. Alright? So there is A. Obviously, each time we learn new notes, it has some helpful little photos to be able to show you exactly what your hand should look like as you're placing there. And pay close attention to the fact that those photos are showing you playing with your fingers nice and up on the tips of your fingers, right? The hand is reaching around, fingers are curved, and you're on the tips, right? The thumb is not wrapped up and around like this. You have a nice relaxed thumb position in the back. And yeah, those are some great examples there. So let's go ahead and take a look at number 19. Now you'll notice right away in the first couple strings that we learned notes on, first thing it did was like just whole notes. And so it's going to start moving a little bit quicker because we're getting comfortable with whole notes, half notes, and quarter notes by this point. All right. So 19 is going to jump right in, and it's from the very start, it's going to have whole notes, half notes, and quarter notes on the very first exercise. But that shouldn't be too much problem. We're going to set the metronome to 72. And we're going to try it at this tempo. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and play. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. note, half note, note, half note, 2, 3, 4, off. And there it is. Yeah, that's a great exercise. It's got all the different types of notes. It's a good review of that, but also introducing us to these 2 new notes. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and bump that metronome up to 120. So you're at home slowly building up that metronome speed, and eventually this is kind of a goal tempo. Obviously, you can go faster, and by all means, if you can play faster, please do. But we're going to go ahead and try this here at 120. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, half note, note, half note, 2, 3, 4, off. And there it is at 120. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the next exercise. This is exercise 20. Similar kind of thing. It's just using G and A, and we're going to use quarter notes, half notes, and whole notes in this exercise. We're going to start at 72. And here we go. 1, 2, ready, and play. And there it is. All right, so this one kind of brings up a concept that we can talk about a little bit. And in earlier lessons, we've talked about isolating particular spots of music and saying, I'm just going to focus on this chunk for a little while, and I'm going to focus on this chunk for a little while, and then slowly kind of bringing those together. But sometimes that concept of isolation can be applied not just to like a measure of music, but it can be applied to a physical movement that you're trying to do on the guitar. This is a very physical thing that we're doing, and it's all about small movements and training your muscles to be able to do that, right? So when I see stuff like this, just kind of going from G to A, this is a great type of thing that you can isolate as a physical movement to practice, right? So maybe you're noticing that that's not as smooth as you would like to be, or maybe sometimes you go to place that A and you miss where it needs to go, or maybe you're feeling like you have to stare at it all the time when you do it, or maybe, you know, when you place it, it buzzes sometimes, or whatever the issue may be. It's not as good as you want it to be, all right? So something that I might do is just isolate that movement. So take the music out of it altogether and just focus on G, A, G, A. Okay, I'm focusing on making sure that my left finger is landing on the fretboard at the exact same time that I'm picking, right? So my right hand and left hand are synced up. I can slowly build that speed. Now I'm doing down up. Right? And that's the idea. We can just focus on this movement and practice that as much as we need to. This can be applied to anything. Any type of physical movement that you're trying to do on the instrument that's causing you problems, don't hesitate to isolate that and spend some time drilling it, okay? Let's go ahead and try exercise 20 up at 120 on the metronome and see what it sounds like at this tempo. Here we go. Exercise 20. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and half note, 2, 3, 4, off. Good. And right now I'm doing a lot of counting through the long notes, through the whole notes, through the half notes. This is really just to reinforce the fact that we're doing that. Eventually, that is all in your head, right? People are going to look at you crazy if you're always counting while you're playing. But the idea is that eventually all of that is happening in your head, and that never really goes away, that you're always keeping track of the time. You're not getting lazy about how long notes are, okay? So keep that in mind as you're practicing. All right, so let's take a look at this bottom. We've got a 3-string review. All right, so at this point we have learned 8 notes. That is a full scale from G to G. We've learned a whole octave. Now, that is technically the notes that we've learned. If you were to play that scale, it's what we would call a G Mixolydian scale. And it has a very specific use and sound, and that's fine. But this is a great thing for us to practice. So I love these little string note reviews that it gives us on occasion, and it gives us an opportunity to review all of those. So I'm just going to go ahead and play up the notes, and then I'm going to play back down the notes, all right? Just like I would practice a scale. So we've got G that we learned today, A that we've learned today, we've got B, C, D, E, F, and G. Now you'll notice we have learned 2 notes called G, right? They are not the same note, but they are both called G, all right? Now, what this is called is an octave. So whenever you have the same name of note repeated in like a higher or lower or even higher version, we call these octaves. So this G here on the first string is 1 octave higher than the G that we learned today, all right? And there's another G down here, and we could even go an octave higher and play a G here, right? So we have, you'll start to notice this more and more on guitar, that there are obviously different octaves of any given note, okay? So as we move forward, I might refer to this, the first G that we learned, as like our high G. And this G that we learned today is currently our low G. Eventually that'll kind of be like our middle G or our mid-range G, and then we have a low G down here. But that's called octaves, all right? Cool, so I'm going to turn on the metronome. I'm going to play up and down these notes at a variety of tempos here. So starting at 72. And I'm just going to do quarter notes, all right? So for me, I'm just drilling up and down the notes, so I'm going to kind of focus on quarter notes for now, but you can obviously go slower and do half notes or whole notes if you would like. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and go. All right. Let's try that up at 120 on the metronome. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and. And that's the idea. And obviously you can go as fast as you would like to go on this. The faster the better. Really, you're just drilling that muscle memory and familiarizing yourself with these notes. So that's our lesson today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please stay tuned for our next guitar lesson.